The first thing they found was the car. It was parked crooked at the edge of a gravel overlook where the pavement simply ended. Beyond it, the dense ridges of the Great Smoky Mountains rolled into the distance like frozen ocean waves, dark and endless under a fading orange sky. The driver's door was open. The keys were still in the ignition, and the phone was smashed beneath the front tire. That was the last physical trace of 21-year-old Caleb Whitmore. Caleb wasn't reckless. That was the first thing everyone said. He was a journalism major at the University of Tennessee. Methodical, curious, the kind of guy who triple-checked battery levels before leaving campus, the kind who texted his roommate when he arrived somewhere. On October 14th at 6:42 p.m., Caleb sent one final message. "I think I found something bigger than we thought." Then nothing. No calls, no movement on his bank account, no social media activity, no body, just the car and the woods. The Smoky foothills in eastern Tennessee have always carried stories. Locals speak softly about the back hollers where cell service disappears, where old cabins collapse into moss, where families have lived for generations without being on any official map. Caleb had been investigating one of those stories. It started as a class project, Urban Legends of Appalachia. His professor suggested something safe, ghost lights, abandoned railroads, Civil War whispers, but Caleb found something else, 3 unsolved disappearances, all within a 15-mile radius of a stretch of land locals called Black Ridge. A backpacker in 1998, a park ranger in 2007, a drifter in 2007, a drifter in 2016. No bodies recovered. Each time, search teams claimed the terrain was too unforgiving. Ravines, sinkholes, sudden fog. But Caleb noticed something strange. All 3 had last been seen near the same unmarked trail, and each case file contained a detail the newspapers never printed. Evidence of campsites that weren't abandoned. They were occupied. Sheriff Roland Mercer had been in office for 27 years. When Caleb requested an interview, Mercer almost refused. "You're digging in dirt that don't need stirring," he said, leaning back in his chair. Caleb didn't back down. 3 disappearances in the same zone isn't coincidence. Mercer's jaw tightened. "You think there's a serial killer hiding in the woods?" Caleb hesitated. "I think someone lives out there." The room went quiet. Finally, Mercer leaned forward. "There are families in these hills that don't want visitors. Off-grid, self-sufficient, been that way for decades. Are they dangerous?" Mercer held his gaze for a long time before answering. "Only if you go looking." The footage from Caleb's camera was recovered 2 weeks later. It had been mailed anonymously to the campus newspaper. No return address. Inside the padded envelope was a memory card. The first clips were harmless. Caleb hiking narrow trails, laughing about the humidity, panning across thick forest that swallowed light whole. Then the tone shifted. In one clip, he zoomed in on smoke rising in the distance, not from a chimney, from somewhere deep in the tree line. The next clip was shakier. He whispered, "There's structures out here, not cabins, more like sheds, but reinforced." The camera caught glimpses between trees, metal sheets, barbed wire, and something hanging from a wooden beam. The image blurred before anyone could clearly identify it. Then came the final video. Night. Breathing heavy. The crunch of leaves under slow, deliberate footsteps. Caleb whispered, "They know I'm here." A sudden flash of light hit the lens. Voices. Low, calm, not surprised. Then the video cut. Search parties combed the forest for weeks. Volunteers, dogs, helicopters. Nothing. No blood. No torn clothing. No struggle. Just silence. But rumors spread fast in the nearby town of Elkridge Hollow. An aging mechanic claimed he once saw figures watching from the tree line at dusk. A waitress swore her grandfather warned her never to hunt past Black Ridge. And an elderly woman told reporters, "Some folks in them hills don't bury their dead." When pressed for clarification, she refused to elaborate. Caleb's roommate Ethan found something chilling in Caleb's laptop, a draft article he hadn't submitted. Title: The Family That Never Left. The article outlined a reclusive clan rumored to have settled deep in the Smoky foothills during the Great Depression. No official property deeds, no tax records, no school enrollments, but occasional sightings. Caleb wrote that hikers reported hearing livestock at night, except no farms were registered in the area. He described strange traps found near trails, not for deer, too large, too deliberate. At the end of the unfinished draft was a single line: "They aren't surviving off the land anymore." Sheriff Mercer held a press conference. He called Caleb's disappearance a tragic accident, suggested a fall into an unsearchable ravine. The case would remain open, but resources were shifting. Privately, though, something changed. 2 deputies resigned within a month. One reportedly told a friend, "We were told to stand down." Stand down from what? No one would say. Winter crept into the foothills early that year. Fog thickened. The trees stood skeletal and silent. Then, in December, something unexpected happened. A hunter emerged from Black Ridge before dawn, pale and shaking. He claimed he'd found a clearing deep off-trail. In the center was a long wooden table, weathered, stained. Around it were crude chairs, and behind the table, a smokehouse. The sheriff dismissed the claim as hysteria. But the hunter refused to return to the woods. He moved to another state 2 months later. Ha ha! Spring brought hikers back. Tourists flooded the edges of the Appalachian Trail, snapping photos of waterfalls and wildflowers. None ventured toward Black Ridge. Locals noticed something else. The usual wildlife patterns shifted. Deer avoided certain valleys. Birdsong stopped entirely after dusk, as if the forest itself held its breath. That is, 6 months after Caleb vanished, his parents received a package. No postage, no fingerprints. Inside was Caleb's university ID card. Clean, undamaged. And a handwritten note: "You should have let the hills keep their secrets." The case reopened, this time quietly. A small team assembled without media coverage. They entered Black Ridge at dawn on August 3rd, body cameras rolling. What they found has never been officially released, but one detail leaked. There were signs of long-term habitation: gardens, water collection systems, storage pits, and deep in a ravine partially concealed beneath branches, foundations of something older than anyone expected. Stone walls, hand-laid, generational, as if whoever lived there had never intended to leave. The team withdrew before nightfall. The official report cited insufficient evidence of criminal activity, but one deputy requested immediate transfer the following week. He refused to discuss what he saw. He only said they weren't hiding. And then, just when the town thought the story would fade into folklore, a second student disappeared. This time, someone had been watching, and someone had been waiting. The second disappearance didn't make the news at first, not officially, but in Elk Ridge Hollow, whispers travel faster than headlines. Her name was Marissa Cole, 22, anthropology student, curious in the same dangerous way Caleb had been. She wasn't investigating folklore for a class. She was investigating Caleb. Marissa had read his unfinished draft. She had watched the leaked footage frame by frame. She noticed something no one else had mentioned. In the final clip, just before the light hit the lens, there was a symbol carved into a tree behind him. 3 vertical lines, crossed once, not random, a marker. She found the same marking in an archived image taken in 2007 near the ranger's last known location. Same pattern, same height on the tree trunk. It wasn't a warning. It was a boundary, and Caleb had crossed it. Marissa didn't tell anyone she was going. She drove at dusk. She didn't park at the overlook like Caleb had. She parked 2 miles down an unmarked dirt road that didn't appear on GPS. She left her phone in the glove compartment. She brought a notebook and a small body camera clipped beneath her jacket. If she disappeared, she wanted proof to survive her. Ada! The Smoky foothills were quiet that evening. Too quiet. Even the wind seemed cautious as it slipped through the skeletal trees. She found the first marker an hour into her hike. 3 vertical cuts in the bark. Crossed once. She kept walking. Another marker. Then another. They weren't random. They formed a path. And that's when she realized she wasn't finding the trail. The trail was guiding her. At 8:17 p.m., her body cam caught the first structure. Not a cabin, not a shed. Something older. Stone foundation reinforced with timber. Hand-built, purposeful. Smoke drifted faintly from behind it. Not a roaring fire. A slow burn. Sustained. Controlled. Marissa crouched behind a fallen log and zoomed her small handheld camera toward the clearing. There were gardens, neatly arranged. Corn, beans, root vegetables, nothing wild, nothing accidental. This wasn't survival. This was settlement. And then she saw them. Not monsters, not feral shadows. People. 3 figures moved calmly near the structure, dressed plainly. Layered clothing, faces partially obscured by hats and scarves. They weren't hunting. They weren't panicked. They were simply living. One of them paused, turned slowly, looked directly toward where Marissa hid, too directly, as if they could feel her breathing. She froze. The figure didn't move closer, didn't shout, didn't signal. They simply held the stare, then turned away, as if she wasn't worth the effort. That frightened her more than anything. Back in town, Sheriff Mercer received a call from a state investigator. The governor's office had taken interest. 2 students gone within a year. Questions were surfacing. Tourism officials were worried about the reputation of the Great Smoky Mountains region. Mercer knew pressure was building, but he also knew something else. The foothills had always policed themselves. There were places law enforcement didn't go without reason, and Black Ridge had never given them enough reason. Until now. Marissa moved closer to the structure. The air smelled faintly metallic. Not blood, not rot, just something heavy, industrial. She circled wide, keeping trees between her and the clearing. That's when she saw the smokehouse. Larger than described, well-maintained, locked, reinforced hinges. Nearby, a long wooden table stood beneath a crude overhang. Weathered, scraped, used often, but not recently. The ground around it was swept clean. Intentionally. No scraps, no remains, nothing careless. These weren't savages, they were disciplined. Her body cam battery indicator blinked at 15%. She whispered into it, "This isn't random. They've been here for generations. They built systems, boundaries. They don't chase, they wait." A branch snapped behind her. Not loud, but deliberate. She turned slowly. No one there, just trees. But she felt it, movement without sound, observation without confrontation. They were letting her see, letting her understand. The same way they had let Caleb understand. Too late. Tapa, back at the university, Ethan hadn't heard from Marissa in 36 hours. He contacted her friends. Nothing. He drove to the dirt road near Black Ridge and found her car. Unlocked. Phone still in the glove box. Notebook on the passenger seat, open to a single line she'd written before leaving. "They aren't hiding from us. We're trespassing." Ethan didn't call local police. He went straight to state authorities. And this time the search was different. Hatha. 3 days later, a coordinated task force entered Black Ridge. Drones overhead, thermal imaging, full tactical gear. They expected resistance. They found absence. The clearing was empty. Gardens harvested, structures dismantled, smokehouse cold. Even the long wooden table was gone. The stone foundations remained. Old, sunken, evidence of decades, maybe a century, of habitation. But no people, no tools, no footprints fresh enough to follow. It was as if the forest had inhaled and erased them. Then one drone picked up something unusual 2 miles east. A new clearing, freshly cut timber, movement. The task force advanced, but by the time they arrived, nothing, just tree stumps, and on the largest remaining trunk, 3 vertical cuts, crossed once, but this time beneath it. A fourth line, uncrossed, a message, 4 who entered, none who left. Thada, the official report, blamed illegal squatters, claimed the structures were temporary encampments, suggested both students fell victim to terrain hazards. The governor held a press briefing praising law enforcement efforts. Tourism resumed, hikers returned, and Black Ridge was quietly added to restricted zones on updated park maps. No explanation given. Numverata. Months passed. Winter returned. Then something unexpected surfaced. An investigative journalist from out of state published a piece online. She claimed to have obtained partial body cam footage from Marissa's device. The clip showed the figure staring directly at her hiding place. But when the footage enhanced the face, it wasn't threatening. It wasn't deranged. It was calm, intelligent, aware. And behind that figure, barely visible in the background, was someone else, holding something familiar. A university ID card, Caleb's. The article went viral. Then it disappeared, taken down for legal review. The journalist deleted her social media accounts. Her website shut down within a week. No explanation. Spring again. The foothills greened. Tourists filled scenic overlooks. At the same gravel turnout where Caleb's car had been found, a new wooden sign appeared. Hand-carved. Unvarnished. It wasn't there the night before. No one claimed to have installed it. It read, "Respect the boundary." No vandalism followed. No removal attempts succeeded. Each time authorities took it down, another appeared. Same handwriting. Same message. To this day, hikers report seeing smoke in the distance beyond restricted trails. Garden rows glimpsed through fog, the sound of chopping wood echoing at dusk, but no confirmed contact, no arrests, no remains recovered. Officially, the disappearances remain unsolved. Unofficially, locals say the foothills keep balance in their own way. They say some families chose isolation when the world modernized. They say survival demands difficult choices when outsiders push too far. And they say the woods are patient. They don't hunt. They don't chase. They wait. If you ever hike near the edges of the Smoky foothills in eastern Tennessee and you see 3 vertical cuts in a tree, turn back. Because some secrets aren't buried, they're guarded.